Good morning and welcome to this new series of European dialogue promoted by VITA, the media company of the Italian third sector. I am Luca Jaillet, the past president of the European Economic and Social Committee, that is the consultative body of European Union representing the wide European civil society voice in the EU public space since the Treaty of Rome. Our very first guest is a key member of the European Commission, Nicolas Schmit, Commissioner for Jobs and Social Rights. Very, very welcome, Commissioner Schmit, to our European dialogue. You came from a founding member of European Union, Luxembourg, and for this country you have served for a very long time in key position. You have served as a permanent representative in Brussels. You have served as Minister of Foreign Affairs and Immigration from 2004 to 2009, and after as Minister for Labor, Employment and Social Economy in two different formats from 2009 to 2018. And since you were elected in the European Parliament in the election of 2018, you became after a member of the new von der Leyen Commission since December 2018. From what you have done in all your life, social dimension of the European Union construction has always been a key priority of your action. And I wish to remember some key initiatives you took during the Luxembourg's presidency of European Union in the second semester of 2015, as for example, the joint format of the Council of the Social Minister and the Economic Minister around the EU semester was one very first, unfortunately not followed by others, was also the strong support you delivered to the Juncker initiative for adopting, for proclaiming the social pillar, the EU pillar for social rights in Gothenburg in November 2017. And now you have a wide portfolio. I will not mention all the title. People can go to Google your name and we'll see how many key priorities you have in your hands. But you have delivered on promises. On the last 4th of March, you have presented the initiative of the action plan on the social pillar that will be a driver for this commission. We all know, dear Nicolas, that without a strong social dimension, there will not be a sustainable green and digital transition. That was the key driver of this new commission. And now, after the pandemic, with the impact, the huge impact on jobs and the EU social fabric, EU has chosen to invest in recovery and resiliency, accelerating green and digital transition, but also strengthening the cohesion and the social rights. And as you very often mentioned, one of the last EU barometers says that 88% of the EU citizens consider this dimension as their core priority. So, Commissioner, we are very curious to know directly from you which are the main guidelines, the main priority, the targets, and the action that you propose in your wide action plan just presented a few weeks ago, and it will become the core of the debate in Europe in the weeks to
come. Good morning and grazie molto. I would like to start with by saying that first, the adoption of the social pillar by the previous commission has proved to be a very important moment, and in some way a turning point, because there was the experience of the previous crisis, the financial crisis, the euro crisis, where finally the social dimension was completely or at least largely ignored. And the adoption of the pillar, in that sense, opened a new approach to European policies. And this commission, from the beginning, has given very strong signals on developing the social dimension. You have mentioned the minimum wage, and precisely you have mentioned an action plan to implement the social pillar, because the social pillar, these are important principles, how finally our social welfare system should be organized, where Europe can play an important role to strengthen precisely the social developments. The action plan is how we can translate these principles in concrete policies. And by the way, the Commission has started the action plan before adopting the action plan, because when we tabled the proposal on the minimum wage, this was a very central issue, very central proposal of the action plan, how we can have better social convergence, how we can promote wage convergence in Europe, because we have a more and more integrated European economy, a more and more integrated internal market. We have a large majority of member states belonging to the monetary union. You cannot just put the social aside. And therefore, we have to build also on this social pillar. We have to build the social pillar. And the action plan certainly refers to the social pillar, is the translation of the social pillar. What are the priorities? First, employment, because we are in a crisis. We are in a moment where unemployment has gone up, especially youth unemployment, where a lot of European citizens fear for their job. So employment remains at the center of our policies. This is our first priority, and therefore we want to encourage member states to do more for employment, to have an active employment policy. We have, by the way, made a proposal on how these employment policies should be organized. Gender equality, and that's very much linked to employment policy, because some member states, maybe Italy also, have still a very low rate of women being in the labor market. And this should be really encouraged to increase this rate. And this means also that we have to redesign a lot in our social policies. Better childcare, better balance between professional and private life. All this comes also to improve the, or at least to reduce the gender gap in employment. The second one is investing in people, because finally we are in midst of a big transformation, economic transformation, but especially you have referred to the green transformation, the Green Deal, and the digital revolution. And our response must very clearly be investing in people. There will be a lot of jobs changed, or there will also be jobs that disappear, but there will be also a lot of jobs created. Just take the example of batteries. There are a lot of new projects, of new industries for batteries. Thousands of jobs will be created there. And one of the main concern of the industry is, do we find the talents for these new industries? Do we have the right people to work in these industries? So there's a need for investing more in skills. There's a need for reskilling. There's a need for upskilling. That's very much linked to the digital revolution. There is a need for lifelong learning. And that's also a major objective of the action plan. And third, the crisis has shown but what has existed already before. Europe still has a level of poverty which is much too high, and so we have to do more to combat poverty, because what is at stake is the cohesion of our societies. It's the feeling that inequality is increasing, that people are excluded from our society at a moment when we need everybody, where demographic evolution make that in some sectors we do not find the right people. And therefore the Commission is insisting very much on fighting, combating poverty, and especially child poverty. And here also we have launched last week an important measure on a child guarantee to help children in need, to reduce child poverty, and to give, and that's also one of the principles of the pillar, to give every citizen equal opportunities. So that's the action plan, with a lot of other precise measures, but this is in a nutshell what the action plan is all about.
Thank you so much. You have described the main issue, and I will invite our follower to go to the website of the Commission, because it's a very well done, and so there will be a wide instrument to understand how many action and how large is the scoreboard of the action plan. We are in the Portuguese presidency of the European Union, and we know that the Prime Minister Costa has put the social pillar very high in his agenda. He said during our plenary of the ESC last January that the EU pillar of social rights is the best vaccine against social inequalities, populism, and fear. And this is why the Portuguese presidency has planned this core initiative of this presidency, the Porto Summit on the 7th of May, that will be entirely dedicated to your action plan on social pillar. So there is a strong political commitment to make this action plan clearly a plan for Europe. My question to you is, what do you concretely expect from this summit beyond words and declaration? Knowing that there are already forces that do not share this direction, or they share the main goal, but after they raise very strong opposition to concrete measure, as for example, the one you mentioned about the minimum wages, where already 9 member states have raised juridical concern, and an important part of the business community are strongly opposing this measure that, as you mentioned, is one of the core innovative measures of the action plan. So how do you see this Porto Summit can make the difference to pass finally to action?
Well, the President of the Commission, Ms. von der Leyen, has indicated that we are now really putting the idea of a social market economy in the center of the developments, and that there is no opposition between the social and the economic, that we have to integrate the social in our economic and development policies. And I think this is extremely important to give this message, because this had been a bit forgotten during a certain number of years, especially, as I said already before, during the previous crisis. And I think the Porto Summit should be the moment where finally Europe is clearly indicating this combination of an efficient, competitive, innovative economy, market economy, and on the other side, a social economy, an economy with very clear social objectives, and combining both. And I think this is the message which has to go from Porto. And here I expect that the European Council will support the action plan, that social partners and stakeholders like the social economy, but also other stakeholders, will meet on the 7th in Porto and show that the European social model is not outdated. it is more up to date than ever. And we have seen that during this crisis. We need social infrastructures more than ever. We need a good health system. We need a policy for children, for education. So we have to invest in these fields to make our economy, but also our society more resilient, stronger. And I would say we need vaccines against the virus, but we also have to be vaccinated against populism, because populism has no project for the future. They just put into question a lot of valuable things, but they do not have real proposals. They are anti, but they are not pro. And therefore, I think we have to build trust again for Europe, in Europe, trust with the citizens. And when I look at the polls which have been issued some time ago on social Europe, we always are told Europe has not a big role in social. No, the citizens see it very differently. The citizens say, with a huge majority, 88%, and a very huge majority also in Italy, that they consider that social Europe is important, not in an abstract way, but for them personally, because they understand very well that if Europe does not integrate the social dimension in its policies, well, and leaves this just to the member states, this won't work. This won't work, and hasn't worked, by the way. So I think this is what I expect from the Porto, building trust in Europe, showing that social is equivalent to the big policies we implement in Europe and also in the member states. And I think therefore Porto would be a very decisive, a very important meeting.
Yes, we share all this expectation, and we wait for this momentum since a very long time. And now here we are. I remember when, during the presidency of the Council of Herman Van Rompuy, he tried to open a reflection about the social dimension of the European Monetary Union. And unfortunately, this was not a success, but it was a first try. And now we are in this momentum because, as you said, we are obliged for our future to accelerate the transition of industry, digital and green. But if you do not cultivate a fair transition through a social pillar, this will be a nightmare, not a transition. And coming to Italy, you already make a reference to Italy. As we all know, Italy has not only been the most affected country in Europe by the pandemic for the number of deaths, for example, and infection, but also, unfortunately, the figures of unemployment, youth and gender jobs, and poverty are since a long time very bad. Italy has already been the first recipient of one of the most innovative and new instruments put in place by Europe to respond to the pandemic. We can say the first social Eurobond in the history of Europe that has been sure, that is a success. It has been a success. Italy has got 27 billion, more than 1/4 of the global package. So how do you see Italy has to focus in the months to come to address these social challenges, these imbalances, this non-cohesion, also in the framework of the National Plan for Recovery and Resilience that has also to be social?
As you said, Italy has been very much affected by this pandemic. But it's true also that Italy had, for a too long time, a very low growth, even in some way, a stagnant economy. And I think there is now an opportunity for Italy, as for other member states, but particularly also for Italy, to relaunch major investments and to modernize its economy, to modernize its social systems, but also to modernize its administration. And these are the objectives also of the National Recovery Plan in the context of European recovery. And Italy is a fundamental member state of the European Union in terms of its economy, in terms of its commitment to the European project. So I think it is essential that this modernization will absolutely succeed. And it shows also to Italy that more than during the previous crisis, Europe is built on solidarity, because we have experienced, especially during the pandemic, that national policies or national attitudes cannot solve the major problems we are facing. And this was also the reason why at the end Europe chose the way of solidarity, build up this recovery and resilience facility. And now each member state, including Italy, have to work how to really use usefully and efficiently these funds. And these funds in order to relaunch the economy, but also to strengthen the social fabric. And I think the investing in education, investing in skills, investing in vocational training, trying to reduce the gaps between the regional gaps also in Italy. All these are extremely important efforts for Italy, but they are also important for Europe. So SURE was created because when this crisis started, it could have provoked massive unemployment. Massive unemployment, given that a lot of sectors were in a lockdown, they would have finally dismissed millions of people in Italy, but in many other places. And on the basis of experiences in other member states, SURE was launched to say, well, there is a model where we can save jobs, help companies, and also preserve people's income for social reasons, but also for economic reasons. And this was the idea of SURE, which is a success because 19 member states have used SURE. Italy is one, as a big country, one of the main beneficiaries. Short-time work has been a success in Italy because it has saved hundreds of thousands of jobs in Italy. Also the way how it has been implemented, also precarious jobs, people on precarious jobs have been supported. So I think this is a very good example how the social and the economic are very tightly linked. And now we are not yet at the end of SURE. It's still working. We all hope that now we will be able in the forthcoming months to stop the pandemic, to come back to normal, to relaunch the economy, and precisely a lot of sectors which have been affected very hard, like hospitality, tourism, and so on, very important for a country like Italy. And therefore we are proposing now to continue SURE where it's necessary, to continue short-time work where it is indispensable, but at the same time to put into place active labor market policies to help people eventually who have lost their jobs or who are about losing their jobs to switch to new jobs, to other jobs, to facilitate transitions on the labor market. And the only way, and especially also for young people, because youth unemployment is high all over Europe, but it's particularly high in Italy. And therefore, we now have to have a very active labor market policy. That's a new project which Europe has launched called EASE, and it can be integrated also in the national recovery plans to invest in skilling, to help companies hiring young people or people having lost their jobs. So now we have to be active to get out of this crisis stronger and also with a very clearly social objective.
In Europe, we have so many good practices and also capacity of innovate. And we know, and this will be my last question, that is very close to your heart, social economy, since a very long time. We met first time in Rome during the conference on social economy of the Italian presidency. And you have been at the forefront of the fight to support and enlarge the capacity of social economy to be included in EU policy. I wish to remember that you were the promoter of the Luxembourg Declaration that organized a group of willing government to push in this direction that has grown and has realized a lot of things. And you have been the first to put in the conclusion of a format of the Council, conclusion on social economy. It was the Council, the EU Council under your presidency on the 7th December 2015, and this, for the moment, the only one. You have also announced and launched the dialogue, the consultation process that for the autumn of this year, you want to have an action plan for social economy. And this is part of your roadmap. And so I want to ask you, what are your expectations with this action plan? Because you are not only a supporter, but also an expert. Since so many years you're working for this. And what should be the link between this expected new action plan for the autumn and the action plan for the social pillar that has already been put in place?
Yes, well, I think that we are in a moment of new opportunities. We are suffering a lot. People are suffering due to the pandemic, but at the same time, we have new opportunities. I won't use, I like this formula used by President Biden saying, build back better. And I think these opportunities have to be seized. And social economy, developing social economy, developing the social sector, developing solidarity economy is one of these opportunities to create jobs, to make our economy, our society more sustainable, because this Commission is very much committed to the sustainability goals. And I think social economy can be a very strong actor in this context. We have said there's a lot of strong social demands in our society. And I think social economy can respond to these social demands. Now, what can we do? Social economy is already, in many countries, and Italy certainly is one of them, an important actor in terms of employment, in terms of contribution to GDP, but also in terms of innovation. This commission has, President von der Leyen has said, I want an economy that works for people. Well, if there is one economy that works for people, it's the social economy, because the social economy is very much oriented, and I would say mainly oriented towards serving people. So what can we do with the action plan? First, to show clearly that social economy is not any small sector in Europe, which is nice to have, but not playing an important role. So this is a political commitment. This is something, a political signal, which is important also for the millions of people working in social economy. And so we will then see what are the concrete measures to ease the development of social organizations, social enterprises. How can we promote these enterprises, these social organizations at the European level? We have to scale up in many areas, because there are a lot of smaller entities which have to grow, which have to diversify, which have to innovate, because the digital dimension is not just for high-performing companies in all kinds of sectors. It's also for the social economy to innovate and to use the digital tools. Just one example. We are talking a lot about platforms, and we are complaining that very often platforms are not respecting basic social rights and labor rights. Well, there are now cooperatives creating platforms, guaranteeing social rights to those who work on these platforms. So there is a clear alternative possible to build up in the social sector, which is economically performing well and at the same time respecting the social, the basic social fundamental rights. So I think this is an example how innovation can strengthen the social economy. But third element is financing. Well, there is still quite often there are difficulties for the social sector, social economy sector to find the right financing. In some member states more than in others. We will devote 1 billion euros through InvestEU for the social economy sector, for social enterprises, to finance through the European Investment Bank. To do that, we have to see how smaller entities can gain access to this money, because very often the money is there, but it's not easy to get the money because it's quite difficult. So I want things to be easier, simpler for these entities of the social economy to find the right financing. So these are some elements of this action plan, but also, again, it's a signal that social economy is part of our economy. And by the way, when we identified, together with Thierry Breton, the Commissioner for Internal Market, the major ecosystems in our European economy, there are 14 out of them. Automotive is one, aerospace is one, and social economy is one. So this values the role of social economy in terms of contribution to the not only to the European economy but also to our social fabric and to social innovation. So we are waiting now. We are dialoguing very much with the social economy actors. We are listening, and we will bring together these ideas in this action plan, because the action plan has to be close. It's not a top-down, it has to be a bottom-up approach, and really to make out of social economy an essential part of the European economic and social model.
Thank you so much, dear Nicolas, for this very rich dialogue and conversation. I hope we can meet physically in Porto, and this will be a good news, either for the pandemic to be a little over, for this restriction, but also for being a lot together to push for this action plan for the social Europe and towards an action plan for social economy. But in any case, you know that you can count on the large and convincing support and engagement at your side from the Italian third sector and social economy in this fight for a more social, more inclusive, more innovative Europe, because this is the way to build up a sustainable Europe, the Europe we want. Thank you so much, and my best wishes for your Easter. Hope you can have some break from your busy work each day, each week in the Commission.
Grazie mille, Luca.
Grazie. I would like to add my thank you. Thank you,
Grazie.
Thank you,
Grazie.
Grazie, Luca.
A presto, Nicolas.
Grazie a tutti.
Grazie.